My girlfriend, Serafina, suddenly broke up with me just as we were about to graduate from college. She gave me a mansion, a Bentley, and $18 million, saying it was thanks for my companionship over the past 4 years. I was bewildered, desperate to know why we were breaking up. But she replied coldly, Ethan, people from my kind of family keep romance and marriage separate. I'm going back for an arranged marriage for alliance now. Do you understand? My girlfriend was engaged, but the groom wasn't me. When I rushed to the engagement ceremony, I saw Serafina on the stage. She was wearing a designer gown and exquisite jewelry, beautiful yet dignified. The man standing opposite her, however, looked to be only about 5 feet 3 inches tall, and he was quite heavy, his face covered in oily pimples, as if they might burst at any moment. My girlfriend was going to marry a man like that? Thinking back to last night, it felt like a lifetime ago. Yesterday, when I returned to the mansion from my internship, Serafina pulled me onto the bed. She leaned down and kissed me, her voice husky as she whispered, Husband, tonight, don't treat me like a person. After that, it felt as if she devoured me whole. But when I woke up, she was gone without a trace. Her phone number was disconnected, and her WhatsApp and Instagram accounts were deactivated. It was as if she had suddenly vanished from my world, catching me completely off guard. Then, her attorney showed up at my door. The attorney arrived at noon. He said Serafina had specifically instructed him to come at noon, so as not to disturb my rest. Then, he handed me a document. I looked at the document, bewildered. It was a deed of gift, stating that Serafina was voluntarily granting me the mansion, the Bentley, and $18 million in savings as a token of gratitude for our 4 years together during college. So, she inexplicably dumped me and then treated me like a kept man, throwing money at me? Boo. I was far from short on money. I had told Serafina as much when we first got together. But she'd always confidently told me, no matter how rich you are, you're not as rich as I am. I never bothered to argue, after all, I loved her. But why would we break up so suddenly? Just last night, she was so passionate, so fervent, whispering I love you almost the entire night. How could it all end now? I forced myself to calm down. Then, using my own network, I quickly uncovered the truth. And so, I arrived at the engagement ceremony. I could tell Serafina wasn't happy. Was she being forced to marry this man? Kiss her. At that moment, someone in the crowd shouted. Then, I saw the man reach for Serafina's hand. Serafina instinctively recoiled, stepping back. The man grew displeased, his thick lips flapping as he spat. Have you already forgotten what you promised me? Serafina's face turned ashen, yet she took a step forward. She must have been threatened. I immediately pushed through the crowd, shouting at Serafina, Serafina, whatever trouble you're in, tell me. Don't put yourself through this. All eyes turned to me. When saw me, a flicker of joy appeared in her cold eyes, only to be instantly replaced by an icy glare. Who's this kid? The man glared at me and said, You're calling my fiancée by her first name? Pretty intimate, aren't we? I was about to state my identity, but Serafina cut me off. Serafina furrowed her delicate brows and said, He's just a simp. Just have someone escort him out, don't bother with him. A simp? I could feel the contempt radiating from every gaze directed at me. Indeed, who would ever respect a simp? But I wasn't that. Serafina and I had met at a club event. I had just finished playing basketball and was famished, so I snuck some of Alex's snacks. Then teased me a bit and demanded I call him boss. It was just playful banter between roommates, I didn't mind, and I actually called him boss. At the time, Serafina stood up for me. She said it was wrong to bully someone just because they were poor, and then she also told me I shouldn't steal other people's food. She had that strong-willed and takes-charge personality, always keen to ensure fairness. Later, I pretended to be poor and pathetic, constantly pestering her. Before long, we were together, and the whole school knew I was being financially supported by her. People often said she was supporting a kept man, and I was worried she'd lose face, so I told her my family was actually incredibly wealthy. But she didn't seem to care much. Anyway, for 4 years, we didn't have a dramatic love story filled with ups and downs, but our love was sweet and deep. In fact, we barely ever argued. That's why her suddenly dumping me was utterly unacceptable. I just had to know why. I gazed at Serafina on the stage and walked up to it, step by step. Before I could speak, the man suddenly appeared in front of me. He was so short that he had to look up at me, and I had to look down to see him. You mother you actually came up here? He jumped up, trying to slap me. I stepped back to dodge him, then frowned, looking at Serafina and asking, you broke up with me just to marry this thing? What nonsense are you spouting? Serafina rushed forward, raised her hand, and slapped me. I had dodged the man's attempt to hit me. But when Serafina hit me, I didn't dodge. Because she was wearing heels, and I was afraid she might fall. She was getting married, and I was still worrying about her. How foolish of me. I touched my slapped face, my eyes already filled with sorrow. So you're Serafina's college boyfriend? The man walked over, a sneer on his face. A kept man like you dares to put on an act in front of me? Do you know who I am? I'm Derek, and our Goo family is the richest in Willow. I didn't look at Derek. Instead, I continued to Serafina, walking away without a word. That's not fair to me. Fairness? I gave you the mansion, the car, the savings. What more do you want? Stop it, Ethan, we're over. Serafina frowned. You know how it is with my family. Love and marriage have to be separate. Thank you for 4 years of companionship, but my husband can only be Derek. Do you understand? I only ask you one thing, do you love me? I looked at her as I spoke. As for arranged marriages for alliance among powerful families, I understood them well. My parents had an arranged marriage for alliance, but they were lucky. They grew up as childhood sweethearts and naturally fell in love. As for me, actually, I was also expected to enter an arranged marriage for alliance, but I didn't have to. After all, my family's standing in Capital City was already secure and didn't require such alliances. Love? Stop it, Ethan. Ever since I was little, I knew I'd have an arranged marriage for alliance when I grew up, so I never believed in love. I dated you simply because you were good-looking and poor enough to be easily controlled. Serafina scoffed. Alright, now you have your answer. You can go. So, what I thought was sweet and deep love was merely my own delusion. And in Serafina's eyes, I was nothing more than a presentable and obedient kept man? It was ridiculous. I nodded. If that was the case, then so be it. Though my heart ached, I was capable of letting go when necessary. I came here hoping to salvage things. If I couldn't, I would let go. I looked at Serafina, offering a bitter smile. All right then, I wish you happiness. With that, I turned to leave the stage. Serafina clenched her hand, averting her gaze and not meeting my eyes, but blocked my path, smirking. Since you're already here, you might as well stay and observe the ceremony. Otherwise, you're disrespecting me, Derek, disrespecting my Goo family, and disrespecting all of Willow. That brazenly arrogant? I chuckled. I'd heard similar words before. After all, Capital City is vast, and not everyone knows me. It's inevitable that some people you would get a little too cocky around me. But after I dealt with a few who were oblivious to power dynamics, no one dared to speak to me like that anymore. Derek didn't catch the contempt in my words. Instead, he clapped his hands. Then, numerous security personnel emerged, surrounding the stage. Kid, as long as I'm not happy today, you won't be leaving this room, Derek declared. Serafina hurried over, glaring at me. Get out of here. I don't want to see you anymore. Did I give you permission to speak? Derek retorted with a cold face. Do you really think I'm a fool? Can't you see you're protecting this kid? Protecting me? I looked deeply into Serafina's eyes and saw them filled with worry. Perhaps her words just now were a lie? Serafina, however, shook her head. I just don't want any more ties with people from my past. Besides, today is our engagement. What would it look like to have my ex-boyfriend here? Would you have any face if word got out? Her tone softened considerably. Derek, I'm thinking of you. Derek's expression eased somewhat, but he still said, I'm not afraid of losing face, because in this little corner of Willow, I am king. He pointed at me. Go observe the ceremony from the audience. I nodded, giving Serafina a half-smile, and then stepped off the stage. But no sooner had I stepped off the stage than I was immediately surrounded by 4 security personnel. They then led me to a corner seat. It was as if they were afraid I'd run off. Derek on the stage said to me, Kid, just watch the ceremony. If I don't let you leave, you can't. If you don't let me go now, when you want me to leave, I won't. I offered a faint smile. Shut up. Serafina snapped. I just smiled and said nothing. If they wanted to play this game, then they couldn't blame me for what came next. Derek then added, I hear you're from Capital City? Good. Later, some important figures from Capital City will arrive, all young masters from the exclusive Capital City Elite. I'll introduce you to them, it'll be a chance to broaden your horizons. I appreciate that in advance. I couldn't help but smile again. Just then, a group of people approached. They were all young, and their arrogance was palpable. As expected, they were Derek's cronies and hangers-on. Kid, why are you making things hard for yourself? Do you really think Serafina can protect you? To be honest, even if you hadn't come today, Derek wouldn't have let you go. How could he possibly allow the man who slept with his fiancée for 4 years to live? I have my cell phone here. Do you need me to call the police for you? The group laughed mockingly, unrestrained. I looked down, fiddling with my cell phone, not bothering to speak to them. However, one thing I was certain of, Serafina genuinely was trying to protect me. The engagement ceremony soon concluded. Next was the phase where guests ate, drank, and networked. Derek led Serafina from table to table, toasting, and everyone was fawning over Derek. I had just managed to discreetly investigate the Gu family of Willow. While they were indeed the richest, they lacked any real foundation, essentially being nouveau riche upstarts. The family's rise to power was due to their connections in Capital City, which allowed them to secure many large projects in Willow, thus vaulting them to the position of Willow's richest family. However, the Gu family had never managed to truly integrate into Willow's established old money circles. In other words, everyone present today consisted of subordinates and associates of the Gu family, along with Serafina's family friends. As for Serafina's family, they were considered an old family in Willow but had since declined. The arranged marriage for alliance between the Su and Gu families was a mutually beneficial arrangement. What the Gu family wanted was a ticket into established old money circles. Marrying into an old family was their way of gaining entry. What the Su family wanted was simply money, hoping to regain their influence through this. I had seen countless such arranged marriages for alliance since childhood, so I wasn't surprised. Indeed, throughout history, similar events have occurred countless times. Arranged marriages for alliance have always been a complex art. Just then, a young girl, seemingly only 16 or 17, sat beside me. She was sweet and pretty, with a hint of baby fat on her cheeks, utterly adorable. And in her eyes and brows, there was a striking resemblance to Serafina. My name is Luna, your ex-girlfriend's younger sister. Don't say anything from now on. Come with me. She looked very cute, but her voice was icy cold. As she spoke, she had already taken my hand. But I didn't move. Instead, I asked, "Did your sister ask you to help me? What do you think?" Luna frowned. "Hurry and come with me, or you won't be able to leave." At that moment, several security personnel had already surrounded us. Luna sighed, let go of my hand, and sat back, no longer planning to leave, as she too knew it was impossible. "You shouldn't have come." She sighed again. "If it weren't for you, my sister wouldn't have had to marry that short, fat pig." "For me?" I was surprised, but before I could ask, I noticed a commotion in the banquet hall. Derek and Serafina also walked towards the entrance of the banquet hall, simultaneously signaling everyone to stand up. Then I saw 7 or 8 people enter the banquet hall. There were men and women, all young, yet possessing a composed demeanor. Especially the person leading them, barely in his early 20s, but radiating immense presence. "Leo, you finally arrived. Otherwise, my engagement party would have felt incomplete." Derek immediately stepped forward, extending his hand to shake the leaders. Leo didn't shake Derek's hand. He didn't even glance at him. Instead, he carefully scrutinized Serafina before asking, "Are you Serafina?" Serafina was momentarily stunned, then nodded. Leo's demeanor softened slightly, and with a hint of a smile, he said, "He hid you away too well. Otherwise, we should have met long ago." Derek thought this he referred to him, and he wondered when he had ever hidden himself. However, he didn't dwell on it and instead announced to the others, "Everyone, this is Leo of the Liu family from Capital City. He is a powerful family heir, and the Liu family is the greatest pillar of support for our Gu family in Willow." The others immediately clapped, fawning, their excitement palpable. Derek, however, saw me still sitting on the couch and glared at me. "Kid, who gave you the audacity to still be sitting?" Serafina also immediately said, "Ethan, get up now." All eyes fell on me once again. And their smiles were all malicious. In their view, a powerful family heir from the exclusive capital city elite had arrived, and my failure to stand up was a direct disrespect, meaning I was about to be put in my place. Yet I remained calm and composed, merely smiling at Leo and asking, "Do I really need to stand up?" Leo froze for a moment, then rubbed his eyes, looked at me again carefully, and his face changed completely. Derek, however, gave a sinister laugh. "Leo, this kid is my fiancé's ex-boyfriend. To put it plainly, he's a simp. I kept him here for some entertainment. You know I have a private kennel facility, right? I'm thinking of throwing this kid to the attack dogs." Serafina's face turned pale. Gritting her teeth, she said, "Derek, what did you promise me?" "I did promise you that if you married me, I wouldn't bother him. But he came here himself and made me lose face. Why should I let him go? Derek sneered. Serafina said nothing, but walked straight towards me. She reached me, shaking her head with a bitter smile, her eyes filled with fondness. When will you ever give me a moment's peace? I stood up and flashed her a wide grin, the kind of bright, cheerful smile she liked best. Don't talk about me. When will you finally believe your man is truly powerful? I took her hand and pulled her into my embrace. She whispered, Ethan, I'm afraid I can't protect you anymore. Your only chance to leave now is to take me hostage. Then just take the money I gave you and run, as far as you can. I gave a helpless laugh. She still didn't believe in me. Had I hidden my true self too well? At that moment, the security personnel around us were closing in. But the event staff in the banquet hall also surrounded them. They blocked the security personnel, who resisted but were immediately subdued. And almost all the Gu family bodyguards in the entire banquet hall were taken down at that very moment. The sudden turn of events made everyone in the banquet hall gasp aloud. Serafina was also bewildered, grabbing me and trying to run. Let's go. No need to leave. I held her back, pressed down on her shoulders, and gently guided her onto the sofa. Then, I sat down in front of her. I leaned back on the sofa, crossed my legs casually, a seemingly nonchalant posture that nevertheless commanded respect. Serafina stared at me blankly, as if she had never truly known me before. Because in her eyes, I was merely a cheerful, outgoing, gentle, and considerate man. She had never witnessed my sharp edges. Derek was stunned for a long time before he finally spoke. Kid, do you have a death wish? This is Willow, my territory. I get it now. Serafina gave you money, and you used her money to hire these people to cause a scene, didn't you? Derek pointed at my people. An hour before I entered the banquet hall, my people had already replaced the event staff here. There's a saying, a wise man doesn't stand under a crumbling wall. Without preparation, how could I appear so openly? Derek then turned to Leo beside him and said, Leo, lend me your bodyguards. I'm going to kill that kept man. Leo said nothing. Instead, he walked directly up to me, then bowed deeply. Brother. Leo's demeanor was utterly humble and deferential. The others he brought with him also bowed to me. I simply smiled, offering no reply. This scene left everyone speechless with shock. Derek even ran over and asked, Leo, what are you doing? Smack. Leo slapped him, then glared and said, Did you think I came here today to help you? I just found out you dared to steal brother's woman. I came specifically to deal with you. Huh? Derek clutched his face, his oily, bloated face filled with a look of utter confusion. The family from Capital City? Haven't you heard of them? Leo added. Derek's face instantly went pale. He stammered, Why you're saying Ethan is from the Sioux family of Capital City? Not just a member of the Sioux family, but the sole heir to the Sioux family. Leo stated coldly. What kind of family is the Sioux family? Are they really powerful? You don't know the Sioux family of Capital City? 3 generations, 7 members in the cabinet. No, but is Serafina crazy? With a boyfriend like that, why would she be threatened by Derek? The murmuring of the crowd made Serafina's expression change dramatically. She stared at me for a long time, her face full of disbelief, tears welling up in her eyes. I said, sighing helplessly, I told you countless times how powerful my family was, but you never believed me. I figured it wouldn't really matter, so I just didn't bother elaborating. After all, you'd find out eventually if we got married. Who knew you'd be so foolishly protecting me and almost get taken advantage of by a pig? Serafina both cried and laughed, her small fists lightly hitting me. I pulled her into my embrace and said, Didn't it ever occur to you? You're so beautiful, from such a good family, why did no one dare to pursue you throughout your 4 years of college? You arranged all of this? Serafina looked at Leo in surprise and said, But didn't he just say you hid me very well? They all knew about you, but without my permission, they wouldn't dare to interact with you. As for those who tried to pursue you, my people already turned them away. The mansion we lived in was bought by you, but the housekeeper, driver, gardener, and chef within the mansion were all my bodyguards. The school's ground staff, and Alex, even your best friend, were all personal attendants trained by my family since childhood and assigned to me. I sighed. Truthfully, I didn't tell you the whole truth, partly because you wouldn't believe me, and partly because I was afraid you'd feel pressured. But I really should have told you sooner, then you wouldn't have been threatened. And honestly, I never truly took the Sioux family seriously or bothered to investigate them too thoroughly. Otherwise, Derek wouldn't have even been a factor. Didn't they just want the declining Sioux family to regain their influence? That's simply a matter of a single word from our Sioux family. and now, it was time to deal with Derek. Mr. Gu, you're quite brazenly arrogant, I said with a smile. Derek's legs gave out, and he immediately collapsed to his knees. He continuously kowtowed, muttering, "Young Sue, I truly had no idea of your identity, otherwise, I never would have dared." Yet, as he spoke, there was a hidden venom in his eyes. I glanced at Serafina and asked, "Were you harmed at all?" Serafina shook her head. "I didn't get you to sleep until dawn, then rushed back for the engagement party, so he didn't have a chance to harm me." I nodded, then stood up and said, "Then that's all for now. Powerful families don't resort to open threats and violence when they want something done." After leaving the banquet hall, we went to the Sue family residence. Serafina's parents had already been at the banquet hall. They hadn't said anything to me then, but when I appeared, they had clearly looked down on me. However, after learning my true identity, I could tell they were highly agitated, though they tried to restrain themselves. Of course, I knew they were deliberately trying to appear profound to avoid my contempt. But honestly, none of that mattered. Because the Sue family's standing was so low that I couldn't be bothered to guess at their motives. I sat in the Sue family's living room, with Serafina's parents opposite me and Serafina beside me. As for Leo and his group, I had sent them off, not knowing where they went to have fun. I spoke calmly. "The family wants to regain their influence? No problem. Give me half a month." Uncle suddenly said, "Actually, our Sue family wants to move to Capital City." I raised a hand to cut him off. "Uncle, I understand your desire to elevate the Sue family's standing and legacy, but taking too big a step is easy to overreach and get into serious trouble. Let's take it slow. It always needs to be gradual." Aunt frowned. If married Derek, the Sue family could immediately move to Capital City through Leo's family connections. "How is it that your Sue family is more powerful than Leo's, yet you can't get our Sue family into Capital City?" Serafina said, looking conflicted. "Mom, Dad, listen to Ethan on this matter. Don't say any more. You're not even married yet, and you're already siding with outsiders." Aunt slammed her hand on the coffee table. "Ethan, I'm putting this plainly today. If you can't get the Sue family to develop immediately in Capital City, then the wedding is off." No wonder the Sue family had declined. These two had no foresight. I was about to say something, but Serafina squeezed my hand. Serafina said earnestly, "Mom, Dad, our Sue family simply cannot integrate into the exclusive Capital City elite. Even if we forced our way in through Ethan's family connections, we'd be looked down upon and neglected, and might even become a weakness that drags down Ethan's family. What we need to do now is settle down and develop in Willow. In 10 years at most, we can enter Capital City." "Are you lecturing me? I'm your father," Uncle rebuked angrily. Serafina also grew angry. "Dad, if you hadn't been so pig-headed back then, the Sue family wouldn't have been swindled, wouldn't have declined, and Grandpa wouldn't have died. Why don't you ever learn?" Then she pulled me and started walking, saying, "Let's go. They're brainless, there's no reasoning with them." This was the Serafina I knew, decisive and always right in her actions. On the way to the hotel, I asked her about the Sue family being swindled, and she briefly explained. Apparently, some fringe individual who knew a few people in the exclusive Capital City elite had tricked her father into investing, promising that success would grant them entry into the exclusive Capital City elite. The whole family opposed it at the time, but her father stubbornly insisted, and they almost lost everything. Ever since then, her father had been obsessed, constantly wanting to join the exclusive Capital City elite. Joining the exclusive Capital City elite was truly an obsession for some provincial old families. However, those who actually managed to move from a provincial area, enter the exclusive Capital City elite, and firmly establish themselves were almost non-existent. Because every circle is exclusive. Especially the exclusive Capital City elite, which exclusively enjoys the most prestigious resources, naturally unwilling to share them. Yet almost every year, members of the exclusive Capital City elite use the lure of joining their circle to fish for new targets. Just like Leo, he was fishing for Derek's family. Now, Derek was the richest man in Willow, but that was just a facade. Most of the money the Gu family earned was actually offered as tribute to Leo. I had done similar things. I told Serafina all this on the way to the hotel. She listened intently, remaining silent. At the hotel, she lay in my arms and said, "Ethan, you've suddenly changed so much, it's like I never knew you. Before, you were like an overgrown boy, but now you seem so knowledgeable. Which one is the real you?" "Both are me. When I'm with you, I'm my most authentic self. As for the knowledgeable part you mentioned, it's just the rules of the world, something I've absorbed since childhood." If you're interested, after we get married, we can move back to the family estate, and you'll naturally learn everything," I said with a smile. Serafina nodded, then shook her head. "I'm not interested at all. The reason I fought so hard was because there was no one in the Sioux family to take charge. Now that I have you as my support, why would I still need to fight?" She was right. With me, she wouldn't need to fight. After dark, Leo sent people to pick us up. We drove to the outskirts, where Derek had a private kennel facility. What they called a private kennel facility was actually a dog fighting pit. There was a reason we came here. Derek, uncle, and aunt, the three of them had lost their minds with ambition, actually planning to kidnap me and threaten the Sioux family for benefits. However, when Derek sent people to capture me, he had already been seized by Leo's men and brought here. I sat in the viewing stand, with the dog fighting pit before me. Derek was thrown inside, covered in blood, opposite Atosa on a leash. Beside me were uncle and aunt, trembling uncontrollably. I genuinely hadn't expected those two to be so foolish as to try and kidnap me. Serafina was trembling with anger, gritting her teeth. "What were you thinking? Even if you kidnapped Ethan now and got into Capital City, do you really think they wouldn't come after you later? What's there to be afraid of? By then, it's a done deal. Our family would already be part of the exclusive Capital City elite, and you'd be in Sioux family daughter-in-law. Would the Sioux family really make trouble for us then?" Uncle gritted his teeth. Serafina was too enraged to speak. I patted her hand, reassuring her, then said to Uncle, "You probably don't understand how the top circles operate. If you had genuinely threatened my life, then my parents would no longer care who I liked. They would bypass me entirely and make the Sioux family disappear completely, including Serafina herself." It sounded cruel, but it was the truth. My parents wouldn't even let Serafina live, because they'd worry about her seeking revenge. That would be a lingering threat. "Young Sue, I know I was wrong. Please give me a chance." Derek shrieked at the top of his lungs, but the Tosa's leash had already snapped, and his voice was cut short. I didn't let Serafina continue watching the bloody scene. I stood up and left. Uncle and aunt also tried to leave, but I stopped them. I looked at them and said, "You two watch carefully, then write me a detailed report of 10,000 words. If it's not profound enough, you'll keep watching. After all, there are plenty more Gu family members." I needed them to understand how to properly be my in-laws. 6 months later, Serafina and I graduated. Then, we returned to Capital City together and had a lavish wedding.